Hello, everyone. My name is Siun Beck, and welcome to the fifth episode of Clear Files. So today we have with us Daniel Park as our guest. Hello, Daniel. Could you quickly
Hello.
introduce yourself?
Yeah, hello everyone. My name's Daniel Park. I'm a sophomore in Chadwick International. I've been in Chadwick since sixth grade, which makes this year my fourth year in Chadwick.
Yes. Yep. Thank you for joining us today. And so today's topic is going to be about 선배 후배 culture, which I think in English we can probably translate it to something close to upperclassmen and underclassmen relationships.
Yeah.
Uh, So, to dive straight into the topic, firstly, obviously, a lot of people, I'm going to guess, aren't too familiar with this concept, especially if you're not from Korea. It is a very Korean concept. So, Daniel, if you don't mind, could you quickly explain what this upperclassmen and underclassmen relationship culture is?
Yeah, okay, sure. I mean, to review this quickly, this upperclassmen and lowerclassmen culture exists everywhere in South Korea, including school, like in the companies and stuff, and the societies. And what it is like the lower class people have to um act more formally towards the upperclassman, and the upperclassman has way more opportunities or like way more power, so that they can uh use the lower class man uh for their wants and stuff.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's what I know.
yeah. I think uh I guess the easiest way to kind of think about it would be as a sort of hierarchy, right? A
Oh yeah,
social
yeah,
hierarchy. And then, like you said, it's mostly based around the underclassmen kind of showing respect
yeah,
towards upperclassmen. Obviously, that can take different forms. And like you said, it is something that can be exploited and manipulated in certain situations. And I would go as far as to say that it oftentimes is exploited,
yeah.
which is an unfortunate reality. But so moving forward with that down, I think obviously we're both students of Chadwick International School, and the majority of our audience are also students or faculty members of Chadwick International School. Now, Chadwick International, or CI, I'll just say CI from now on. CI is very unique in that it is an international school based in Korea. So it has a lot of elements of the culture of many different countries around the world. Obviously, Korea, America, and then I know a lot of our faculty members are also from Canada and a lot of other countries. So, how do you think this upperclassmen and underclassmen culture exists in CI?
Well, in CI, as you brought up, since it includes a lot of cultures from other countries, I don't think CI's culture exactly is the same as South Korea, although it is a bit similar. So to give out an example, in Korea, when you call a teacher or like a um a person that has a higher social rank than you have to put like um a formal a formal word after you say their name. So if I can speak in Korean,
Right.
it's like yeah, I need to include like something something 입니다, or like 뭐 something something 합니다, or like something something 님, to show respect to the upperclassman. And I but the thing is that in CI we don't really do that. Students don't really seem to do that. Students are just allowed to just say like Miss Dyer or like Mr. Trevino or stuff. And also in the students hierarchy, um us, since we're sophomores, we have two grade levels that are higher than us, but they don't really seem to like force the sophomores or like the freshmen to show respect like towards them, which makes it a bit different from the Korean society, which which shows a bit of a American society or culture.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think and this is an idea that I've thought about a lot, um, not just recently, but in past years as well. So I think a lot of that also has to do with the language. As you mentioned, in Korean, when you're showing respect, there's a lot of words and a lot of rules that you need to follow, right? And as an umbrella term, we usually say that's 존댓말.
Oh yeah.
So words that you use to respect people of a higher social rank, usually people who are older than you. But in English, that doesn't really exist, right? And I think that's something that I know I've thought about a lot, and that's been discussed a lot in CI as well. Is that difference in the fact that English doesn't really have a way for you to necessarily show respect to people of a higher social rank than you. Obviously, um, English, I guess it has a lot more to do with the tone that you're speaking in, rather than the actual vocabulary and the grammar aspect of it. But what do you think? Do you think that language has as much of an impact that I'm kind of thinking it does? Or do you think there might be some other elements that might have a greater impact?
Well, when we speak English, as I used English for quite a long time now, I can notice that there are actually like not a lot of formal words that we can use to the upperclassmen people. So I mean, just like what you said, I think the tone when we speak is what matters the most when you're showing respect to the higher society, yeah, the higher people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think, okay, so kind of moving on from that slightly, obviously, this kind of culture has pros and cons, right? There are some positive aspects to it, there are some negative aspects to it. Um, if you had to choose overall that it's more positive or more negative, which would you pick?
Okay, for the Korean society or the
Just
English?
the culture itself, the upperclassmen,
Well,
underclassmen culture.
I mean, I wouldn't say that it's a negative thing because, I mean, since it is a fact that the upper class people have lived a longer time. I mean, although it can be like a small amount of years, but it is true that they have experienced more than us, like or the lower people. And I think from that, from just that one fact, I think um we shouldn't call it negative to just show respect to the people that are higher than us. But um, but at the same time, I wouldn't say that it's a positive thing. I mean, I do think it's more like a positive thing than a negative thing. But um, in Korean society, uh, just to get a little bit deeper, um, in like companies, where the people have higher ranks than the people that have lower ranks, there is a culture called 꼰대 문화, which is I'm not sure if I can explain this, but it's like how the upper class man um forces like actually forces the lower class people to just really show respect to them and like work like or to just force them to do more labor for them just to show respect. And I think that culture which is what every Korean knows is a negative thing, but since that doesn't exist in CI, well, well, I think I'm going off topic. Well,
It's fine, it's
anyways,
fine.
yeah, I think the culture just overall is a bit more positive than negative.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, and what you've said is great because obviously, we're looking at this from a umbrella perspective of just
Oh yeah.
trying to connect it to a lot of these other aspects of its implications. So um, I think before we dive a little bit deeper into this, and I do have something I want to talk about, but to kind of um, look at it from a different perspective momentarily. Obviously, this culture, 50% of it is the underclassmen respecting the upperclassmen, but it's also, I won't say mutual, but a symbiotic relationship, right? So where it's the upperclassmen also, I won't say respects, but necessarily, but supports or helps guide the underclassmen.
Mm.
I think that's a significant portion of this culture as well. So looking at it from that perspective, do you think that that is something that's more beneficial or more negative? And the reason I say this, just to clarify, is obviously it definitely sounds a lot more beneficial than negative. But then, like you mentioned, there is that
Yeah.
possibility of the upperclassmen maybe taking it too far, a little bit too extreme, where they consider themselves to be superior. Um,
Yeah.
and obviously, that can have very negative implications. So, do you think in real life applications, this culture, that aspect of this culture is more positive or more negative?
Well, just like what you brought up, um, it is a fact. I mean, to my knowledge, that the person that has more experience, teaching a person that has a less experience is of course beneficial, but um, if I mean, there is a thing from the upper class people, but I'm not saying everyone, but in the Korean society, there are people who does think that they are like superior, and the way that they work out things is what how the lower class people should work out things too. So, like what Sion said, what he really meant is like, um, to give out an example, when I'm working at a company, just on a project on my own way of just solving things, if a upper class person, which can be my boss, comes in and just gives me details on like how I can additionally improve my work, that is of course beneficial. But if my boss goes like too far and he starts to bring out how during his age when he was a worker like me, he used to like do things way better than me, or like how he used to have like his own way, and that we need to follow it, to succeed. If that if this discussion gets to that point, I think that's what makes it a bit negative than beneficial. Yep.
Yeah. And I think in that example you mentioned like how they talk about, oh, in my days, back in my days, back when I was,
Yeah,
your
yeah, yeah,
age, blah, blah, blah.
exactly.
And I think that's a very, especially in Korea, I don't know as much about other countries, but in Korea, that has a very negative connotation. That
Yeah.
phrase, um, because it is connected to that culture, to that negative aspect of this culture. But I think an interesting, I guess, spin, if I may, to put on this culture, to put on your evaluation of this culture is number one, how do you determine whether someone is more experienced than you are? Because, yeah, let me clarify. So, obviously, generally speaking, we say older people, they're more experienced. That's a
Yeah.
very, obviously, that's logic that has very Confucian roots, right? And Korea, a very Confucian country. Older people, they've lived longer, so they have more experience. And that's kind of the rule of thumb that we follow even today in society. But, and I know, as I'm sure you will also know, that's not always the case, right? There are people who are older or who have lived longer who aren't as experienced. or who, and obviously with the times changing, maybe their experience isn't as applicable to today's day and age. So how do you determine whether someone's experience is worthy, I guess, of making them someone who is capable of providing you with guidance?
Well, first of all, I mean the best evidence to know that that person has a good experience is to just find out their like specs. I'm not sure how to say it, like their past like experiences with this specific subject that I need support from. Which means like I can ask like other people about this person if he's a knowledgeable person. And I mean, um, the thing is that uh, I want to like here's a point that can criticize Korean companies. It's like uh, you know, the connection between people is very important in the society, and in companies often like Samsung or like LG, um not to just like criticize them like directly, but like in companies like those, people the higher class people pick the lower class people that can show respect to them. Like, so what this means is that they don't pick people that might be or like that may be more successful than them, which could cause a breakdown of the whole society inside the company. So it's like uh I think this is pretty hard to say, but um it's like a culture, especially in Korea, because the upper class people know that if the person that they chose to be a part of their company exceeds every other people in the company, the whole culture in that society is going to just break down, which is going to be weird. Well, anyways, I went a bit off topic again. Well, and um since there are people like that, like since there are people that were chosen just by having like a larger connection with like people inside the company, since they might have a less experience with the specific topics, well, I mean, honestly, I'm not really sure on like how to find out their exact experience towards the topics. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, I know. That's fine. I mean, the question itself was, as I said, to just to put a spin on, I guess, the typical perspective of looking into the situation. Obviously, there are many ways you can look at the situation, and some perspectives emphasize certain aspects more than others. And I was just trying to look at it from a different perspective slightly.